Welcome to Your Redemptive Birth, the birth story podcast where we hear directly from women who have journeyed from medicalized births to natural ones. I'm Sarah, and together we'll hear from women who have reclaimed birth. Their stories are marked by healing, strength, and deep trust in their bodies. If these stories resonate with you, I'd love for you to follow the podcast and leave a review so more women can find hope here. And for more redemptive birth tips and encouragement, come connect with me on Instagram at Your Redemptive Birth. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not medical advice. Always consult your healthcare team for guidance specific to your pregnancy and birth. This is Your Redemptive Birth.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm so thrilled to talk to you today. We'll give a disclaimer. We both have small children, and if there's background noise, sorry, but this is a birth podcast after all. Awesome. Well, yeah, like I was just saying before we started the recording, you are kind of a horse person and car person, and as you said, an adrenaline junkie. So before we get into your birth stories, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us who you are, a little bit about what you do in the world and your family.
Yeah, so my name is Alex. I just turned 28 on the 6th. I have two boys. They're age 3, going on 4, and 1. And my life is kind of boring right now. I work for Amazon, so I get to see a lot of cool stuff come through. But yeah, right now, my mom just has a horse. I had to put mine down recently in January due to an illness, but I will be getting another one because my boys are absolutely obsessed with them. They have to go see my mom's horse every time we go over to her house. And yeah, I have always been obsessed with cars since I was young. The faster they go, the better. But specifically, I am a fan of Corvettes.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. And I'm so excited to hear your story today because you are the first person that I've interviewed who had a birth center birth.
Ooh,
so
okay.
Yeah. I've only had home births and hospital births. So you're the first birth center gal.
Okay,
and
cool.
I'm excited to get that perspective. So why don't you bring us back to getting pregnant with your first baby, and what you believed about birth at the time, the choices you made, your prep, all that stuff. Wherever you want to start, take us back.
Yeah, so it must have been, it was August of 21 that my fiance he had baby fever more than I did. I wanted to get into our own place first because I was living with my cousins, and I was like, I kind of want our own space if we're going to have a baby, and he was very adamant. So we just were like, okay, baby now, we'll plan for a house later. And everyone was really excited. I had a pretty stereotypical pregnancy. I had the morning sickness. Thankfully, it wasn't too bad. It was mostly just nausea because I hate throwing up. It's the worst. But I did get accommodations to my work, which helped a lot. So I got to sit down and just kind of relax. So usually I'm on my feet all the time. But yeah, other than that, it was pretty stereotypical. Everything seemed fine. Other than he was actually a very quiet baby. Like, I was constantly like trying to move him around to get a reaction, make sure he was doing okay. It wasn't until night rolled around that he was like, okay, it's party time, let's start moving. But during the day, very quiet and inactive. So on April 24th, I believe his due date was the 21st, but my water didn't break until the 24th at 4:30 a.m. And it wasn't like a whole lot of water, so I was kind of confused if maybe like he had kicked my bladder or something, or if it had actually broken. So I got up, went to the bathroom, and sure enough, there was a big old mucus plug. So I'm like, okay, that was definitely my water breaking. So I woke up my fiance, and he's freaking out, like, oh my gosh, we gotta go. And I'm like, it's okay, you don't need to freak out. Like,
can I back you up for just a second? And
yeah.
So you're planning a hospital birth, right? Like you haven't had the natural birth shift yet.
No, so sorry.
No, that's okay.
So I was very much I wanted to do a home birth in the water, but because we were living with my cousin at the time, it was not going to be, the best option. So we decided on a birth center because I already was not into the interventions of an epidural or Pitocin, because a lot of my family had gone through that and they all passed on their traumatic birth stories. So I'm like, well,
Mhm.
I don't want to be like that. And so I was like, I think a water birth is going to be the best option for me because I love being in the water. And I just
Mhm.
heard a lot of really good stuff about it. I had followed a bunch of these birthing Instagram pages to just kind of help prepare me. And it looked so peaceful. And that's what I wanted. And, so it took a lot of kind of winning my fiance over to let me do that. And he was like, well, I mean, you're the one going through it, so I guess that's what we'll do. So with the midwives, they were all very nice. I saw like basically all of their midwives except for one gal for the entirety that I was there. And the one gal that I did not see was the midwife that she was the one who was on call when I went
Mhm.
into labor. So, yeah, I was definitely like, I didn't really like the whole system of a hospital birth. I really just wanted to have somewhere where I could control the setting, turn the lights down, play music, kind of do what I wanted to do and not be hooked up to machines and told to lay on your back. And it just, that whole scenario kind of frightened me personally. So I just didn't think that it was a good option for me. So that's when I decided on a midwife. But the closest one to us at the time was about a 30 to 40-minute drive. So getting there was definitely fun and traffic was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got there at about 8:30 p.m. and my
So
midwife
wait, so you said your water broke around what time? Sorry, just to
uh
remind.
4:30 a.m.
AM.
And
Okay.
I
And then
contacted
8:30
my
AM.
midwife at the time and was like, "Hey, do I need to come in check this out?" And she was kind of like, "Well, just kind of see how it's going because there wasn't like a whole lot of leakage, which I told her about." And she said, "Just kind of feel yourself around, see if it's something that you want to do." And I didn't think that I needed to come in. I just kind of talked it up, kind of went with whatever she said. And
Mhm.
I really wish that I had listened to my body instead. Fiance was like, "Well, let's just go in and check anyway." And so we got there at 8:30, or no, sorry, we had gone in earlier and she had checked me out. She said that my water didn't break, it was still intact,
Hmm. Okay.
but I did lose the mucus plug, so that was what was confusing. And I was like, well, could it have broken like higher up or something? And she said, it seems very unlikely. So I was like, okay, well, then I guess it didn't break.
And
Yeah.
but it's actually kind of not such a terrible thing that the official thing maybe in your birth record was that your water wasn't yet broken, because once waters are broken, then they're on these protocols of like, okay, 24 hours, this baby should have been born to reduce the risk of infection. But the reality is that sometimes women's waters break and they don't even go into labor for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And I mean, women listening, like, do your own research and look into what those numbers are, but the risk of infection increases quite minimally over those couple, like up to 72 hours. um and I guess it's up to each woman. Like, there's no actual rule that says your baby must be born within 24 hours. It's really up to you and your risk tolerance, and what you're willing to, how long you're willing to wait, I guess, for your body and your baby.
Yeah.
So that's a quick thought for anybody who's listening who might be wondering about that.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
anyway, so your water, according to her official record, is not yet broken. It's about, you went in earlier, assessed you, and sent you home.
Yeah. So we
Okay,
did end up doing a pH swab test because I was like, I
gotcha.
really did think that my water had broken. And
Mhm.
so she was like, okay, well, let's do a pH swab and test to make sure. She did that, ended up coming back negative, but I did
Gotcha.
tell her beforehand that I was suffering with reoccurring yeast infections. And I don't know why, but I just kept having them one after another. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, I've never had issues with yeast infections until like my third trimester of pregnancy.
Mhm.
And so I think that might have thrown that test off. I don't know for sure, but that's just kind of my thinking. But so after that, she did send me home and I just kind of ignored my body at that point. Like, I thought that all of my contractions were just Braxton Hicks, but they were getting a lot worse day by day as I did not go in. I just kept texting her, like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. She goes, okay, doesn't sound like anything that you should be concerned about. So by day 5 of not going in
Wow.
and my water having broken, I was having really bad contractions to the point where I couldn't focus. And my fiance was like, well, let's just get you in and see. So at that point, we got in there by 8:30 because I couldn't sleep. I was like, this is too intense. Like, we should go in. And sure enough, by the time that I got there, I was like, can you just check and see where I'm at? And she was like, yeah, of course. And I ended up being 7 centimeters dilated at that point.
Wow.
And she was like, girl, you're not going home. You're staying here and you're having this baby tonight. And I'm like, okay, well then let's get to it. And the part that really sucked is I was denied my water birth, not by their accord, but because of the city, because they turned the hot water off for construction. So
No.
I could not use the tub, unfortunately. But I laid in bed, laboring. They would come in and check on me every hour to see how I was doing, and I just ended up not progressing at all. By about 2 a.m., my son had passed meconium, and that's when they started to get concerned. They're like, "Okay, well, you need to have this baby like very soon, otherwise we're gonna have to transfer you to the hospital." And I was like, "I do not want to go to the hospital. I don't want to go. Like, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be here. I paid to be here." And they're like, "I know, but if this ends up being some sort of emergency, we got to transfer you." So they ended up making me signing a waiver, making just to make sure, like, hey, that I denied transfer to the hospital. But it wasn't until
And
7:30 a.m.
oh,
7:30
gotcha.
the next morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, around 11 hours. Gotcha.
Yeah. And they were like, yeah, you have not progressed at all. You're stuck at 7 centimeters. We tried doing like different positions to help dilate me, tried using a peanut ball. Nothing was working. So thankfully the hospital was right next door, but so it was just a very quick and easy transfer. But at that point, labor had just stalled completely because I was so stressed out.
Exactly. Yes. I'd say just to highlight that, I don't think your body just stalled for no reason. I think maybe there was something going on, like you weren't feeling totally supported, not totally safe, not fully letting go.
Yeah,
When,
absolutely.
yeah.
I
Okay.
think it probably didn't help that my fiance and my mom, who were both there, also had fallen asleep at my
Oh,
side. And so I was pretty much just there with my midwife, who, like, she was doing her best to not intervene because that's what I had asked for. And she was, you know, taking care of my wishes, but just to have the two people that I wanted to be there fall asleep because they were tired. And I'm sitting there like, how do you think I feel? Like,
no kidding.
I'm in labor and haven't slept for, 10 hours. So yeah,
Yeah.
labor had just completely stopped. Like, I wasn't even having consistent contractions at that point. But once they got me into the hospital, the nurses were very nice, very supportive. My mom was being very kind of hard-headed like she normally is, and the nurses would tell her, like, take it easy, calm down. Like, I know that you're stressed out and whatnot, but they really were supportive for me. The only thing that was annoying was the doctor. I didn't know him for more than 10 minutes, and immediately he was like, well, we might have to do a C-section because baby's looking too big. And I'm like, you don't know me. You don't know my records. You know me for 10 minutes and already you're talking about a C-section. No, we're not doing that. And I told my fiance, and I'm like, we're going to
Good for
exhaust
you.
every possible option before we even think about doing a C-section. He's like, okay, I will make sure to relay that message. I'm like, good, we're not doing a C-section, okay? So I really did not want to do an epidural or Pitocin just because of all the horror stories that I had heard. But everyone pushed me to do it. I had no one backing me. The nurses were like, I know you don't want to, but I think your uterus is so exhausted at this point that it just needs some help. And at that point, like really hadn't eaten anything. And of course, you go to the hospital and they deny you food because that 1% that you might choke and on your throw up.
Right. I know, yeah. Prepping you for surgery pretty much, yeah.
When I'd finally dilated to 10 centimeters, my nurse was like, all right, let's get you on your back. And I'm like, no, thank you. Can I actually go on my hands and knees? And they were like, okay, why not? Like, that's normally not what we do, but okay. And so my fiance helped kind of straddle my legs into a V shape. And then I just laid on the peanut ball. And from there on, it was like 7 o'clock p.m. And I'm like, where did the time go? This went by so fast. But yeah, he was finally born at just after 8. I was not a fan of the coach pushing, but I really needed that support. Unfortunately, I did end up with a little bit of eye damage because of that from holding my breath. So I would definitely not recommend doing that. I know
You said
that's kind of,
eye damage.
yeah.
Did you like blow out some blood vessels? Oh man.
I'm not really sure what happened. I know that I ended up with a migraine, and
Mhm.
thankfully, it's only in like really bright sunlight, but I'll have like a lot. So, like the little clouds of gnats during the summertime,
Yeah.
that's what it
Mhm.
looks like in like my upper vision. So, a few times I've like been swatting at air and nothing is there.
Oh wow.
So that was interesting. But immediately afterwards, I had like snowy vision. Like it looked like it was snowing. And
Uh-huh.
the only downside is no one really took me serious. I think maybe because they just didn't know what to do about it. But I was like, my vision is blurry and I can't really see anything. And they were like, okay, well, here, take some Tylenol. Okay, I don't know how that's going to help, but thanks.
Yeah. I've never
But
heard of that before. I've definitely heard of the headaches after an epidural, but I've never heard of having like blurry vision. But wow,
yeah,
okay, good to know. Good to
yeah,
keep
me
in mind.
neither. So definitely do not recommend coach pushing. I wanted to breathe through my pushes, but they told me no because it wasn't helping as much as like holding my breath and pushing. After my son was finally born, I only got to hold him for like 2 minutes, so I didn't get that golden hour. I was denied the cord clamping immediately. So during the last couple minutes, I had spiked a fever of 102. And so
Mhm.
they were like, hey, we need to get him into the NICU because they didn't know how much antibiotics that he had gotten through me.
Oh,
And
you'd been having antibiotics intravenously?
yeah,
Okay.
because,
For
yeah, so
how
I
long?
probably about 30 or 40 minutes. So yeah, I'd
Okay.
spiked a fever and then they introduced the little hook into his skull to get monitoring,
Yep.
which
Yep.
I
Fetal
already was,
electrode. Yeah.
yeah, I was not a fan of that. And so
I've
once I'd
heard of,
spiked that,
sorry to just interject. I
oh,
can't
you're good.
stand when I hear nurses or doctors call it like a little sticker or a little, like, no, it's actually what I would call it, a screw that screws into the top of a
Yeah,
baby's head, just for women listening. And so yeah, the internal monitoring, the fetal scalp electrode is like, I mean, just to be aware of what that actually is, like, I think is important. And also, you mentioned the fever spiking, and your waters had been open for a while, so who knows? Maybe there was an infection present. Another thing is that epidurals tend to cause fevers. Like, women often react by having a fever, and so you don't know what caused it. Was it an infection in you, or was it the epidural? And so they always err on the side of caution and administer antibiotics. But then the sad reality of that is that they often whisk your baby away to the NICU. So no one tells this to a woman before she gets an epidural. They don't know that, oh, there's a risk that I could spike a fever. There's a risk that I might need antibiotics, and then there's a risk that they're going to take my baby to the NICU, and because they don't know if the baby has an infection. And
yep,
I just think that that isn't good informed consent. Women should know that that's what they're potentially signing up for with an epidural. And there's nothing wrong with getting an epidural. I've had an epidural. I know plenty of women have, but it's like, know the risks. I wish they would tell women all of the, there are lots of potential scenarios, that can be a result. Anyway,
exactly.
just wanted to throw in my 2 cents. But yes, so take us
Yes,
back.
definitely.
they take your baby 2 minutes after the birth?
Yeah, so I had him for about 2 minutes, and then my fiance got to hold him for a few minutes, and then after that, they took him to the NICU, and I told my fiance, I'm like, you go with them because I don't want some like weird baby swapping going on. Unfortunately, that was a fear of mine, so he went with him, but that epidural completely wrecked me. Like I could not stand or walk on my own. I had to be wheelchaired everywhere. And then so he had to be on antibiotics for 36 hours, and I was still on them once I was in my room for another like 10 hours or so just to make sure. But yeah, I had to be wheeled down to the NICU every time just to see him. And I struggled to nurse him because we found out later on that he had a severe oral ties both on his lip and his tongue. So he had no choice but to get fed formula, which I really didn't want either.
Sorry, and one other thing. Oral ties definitely factor in, but I think also, I mean, you didn't get the golden hour. Babies established nursing, your milk, your milk supply is like determined in those first
Yeah,
hours, those first, 48 hours or so of suckling from a baby. And so if they're apart from you and you're not nursing as regularly as you would be if that baby was on your chest. And I get it, we had the consideration of the antibiotics and the potential infection was definitely,
yeah,
you had to consider that. But yeah, again, just another factor to consider of the interventions that may lead to your baby being in a NICU might also impact the milk supply. And also not to mention that Pitocin and epidurals have been linked with your, lower milk supplies. Like the hormonal cascade that happens with a physiological birth isn't there. And so your lactation isn't triggered in the same way. So
exactly.
anyway, just
Yeah,
another thing to consider. But okay.
yep,
So
all stuff that I wish that I had known
oh,
beforehand.
I know.
But
Yeah.
yeah, we were there for 3 days, and I pretty much had to be forced to walk to leave because I was still getting wheeled around. But after that, everything seemed pretty fine. But just that entire situation was not at all what I had planned and really wrecked me. And after I'd finally shared that with my family, it was even more frustrating because no one said, like, I'm sorry that that happened. It was all just the same, well, at least your baby is healthy and okay. And my experience was completely dismissed. And I think one person even said, like, well, you don't get a trophy for like having a natural birth. And I'm like, I don't want a trophy. I just didn't want to have a traumatic experience that ruined it for me. Because, like, I was really looking forward to this and not being scared. But you guys brushing off what happened to me is not helping, of course. So after that, I was definitely doing more research to see, like, what I had done wrong, what I could have done to improve. And really, I think it comes down to that I was just not listening to my body. I was relying on someone else to tell me what I was feeling. And I think that was the biggest mistake that I made, and just relying on someone else's research instead of mine. And that would be my biggest takeaway is just listen to what your body has to say and listen to your gut for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a beautiful segue into your next birth.
Yes,
And you
definitely.
sounds like you prepared a little differently and honored what you felt was true in your body. And I'm excited to hear about it. Take us back.
Yes. So with my second baby, we like to say that he was a planned surprise because we did
Mm.
plan for a second baby, but not at the time that he decided to come into the world because we were living with family at the time. So there was 8 people total in this house. So the idea of a home birth again was not ideal, and I was adamant on my water birth. That's what I wanted. And with his pregnancy, he was a lot more smooth sailing. I did have some like the lower groin pain just because
Yeah.
he was a lot more active. He was very active and constantly kicking. Like I could not get him to stop.
Yeah. Did you see
So,
a chiropractor for any groin pain you had?
no, and I really wish that I did because I love my chiropractors. But I was in our safety department a lot, so I was able to relax or have some stretching done. But yeah, I definitely should have gone and seen a chiropractor for
Yeah,
him.
I always recommend chiropractic care for any aches and
Yes,
pains. It's amazing what a little alignment can do. I had the same groin
absolutely.
pain in both of my pregnancies, and I didn't see a chiropractor with my first, and I'm so grateful I did with my second. And it was annoying because it's kind of pricey, and I get like it's not something that everyone feels or can spend the money on, but if you can, oh my gosh, chiropractic care really helps. And not
Yes,
only just with
definitely.
aches and pains, but like baby positioning, getting that baby, just creating a lot of room in your pelvis and in your womb space. And it's so helpful for birth, labor and birth, because babies tend to really settle in nicely when they have lots of room.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
This time I also had my placenta had positioned itself in the back, which was nice because with my first, it was the opposite. It was in the front. So with him, I had a lot of back labor pain, which also contributed to the epidural. But with my second baby, it was the other way around. So my spine had more cushioning, and he was more active in the front. So at times I'm like, please don't like kick out of me. We're not ready for that. But yeah, with him, I didn't have like any of the typical symptoms, thankfully, because I did not want to go through that nausea again. But yeah, the groin pain was really the only thing that I dealt with. Um, I did more research than I did last time. I really was set on just listening to myself and not really anyone else and going based off of how I was feeling. And so with him, when he came, he also decided to start labor at 4:30 in the morning, which is kind of crazy. It was the same exact time. But this time I knew that my water broke. I woke up, I told my fiance, and he was like, "Do we need to go in?" And I'm like, "No, we're gonna chill. We're gonna take it easy. I'm just gonna listen to my body." I told my midwife, I was like, "Hey, just so you know, my water broke. I'm gonna start timing my contractions." Had a different lady this time. She was like, "All right, cool. You just keep me in touch with how your contractions are doing. When they get to be X and X amount of apart, then probably it's time to head in." And so I went about my day. I ate. I drank lots of water. I just chilled. Anytime that I had a contraction, I just stopped. I breathed. I did some like rocking just to kind of help get through it. And by 7:30, I was really starting to feel it. And my fiance was like, "Are you doing good? Like, do we need to go in?" And I'm like, "No, no, no. I can hold off a little bit
7:30
longer."
7:30 p.m., right?
Yes, this is at
PM.
night.
Okay, so you spent like a nice 12 to 14 hours of very like a gentle start to labor.
Yes, it was
Good.
definitely a lot easier and calm this time around. And I kept denying him to take me in, and every like 10 minutes, "We should probably go in. We should probably go in." And I'm like, "No, no, no, it's okay. Well, we're just chilling, we're relaxing, it's okay." And then by about 7:40, he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna take you in now because I have a feeling based on how you're reacting that he's like coming soon." I was like, "All right, we can go." So I text my midwife, said, "We're on our way." Text my mom, my cousin, my aunt, and I'm like, "You should probably start heading over there now." Because for us, it was only about a 20, 30-minute drive, but for them, it was a lot longer. So I was like, "Go ahead and start heading over there now." And we got there at the birth center about 8 p.m. And immediately I was like, "Yeah, I just need to go to the bathroom because I need to sit, but like I don't want to be like on a chair or a bed." So I sat on the toilet for about 15, 20 minutes. And then I was like, "Hey, let's get the bath ready because I want to get in the tub finally." And I'm like, make sure that it's on the warmer side because I'm freezing cold. She goes, well, I don't want you to be too hot and I don't want the water to be too hot for the baby. And I'm like, okay, well, just make it as warm as you can. And so I got off the toilet and I'm like, actually, can you check and see how far I am currently? I know that dilation doesn't really, determine anything, but I'm just curious. And so she's like, yeah, let's get you on over to the bed. And I stopped and stood there next to the tub while it's filling up. And at that point, I knew that I was in transition because I couldn't focus. The only thing I could think of was the contractions and how to get through them. And my fiance was like, "Do you want music to play?" I couldn't answer him. You're like, "Do you want us to turn the lights down more?" Couldn't answer. I just could not answer anybody, no matter what they asked me. I was like blocking everyone out. And I was like, "Just get me in the
I
tub."
love that you say that. I love that you say that because it's actually physiological that we can't really form words that deep in labor. Our neocortex is in charge of our thinking, all of our thinking, our conscious thinking, our word creation, like conscious thoughts. And then our limbic system and our brainstem is what drives the labor process. So and that's
Yes.
labor land. So when we turn the dial way down on our thinking brain, and we do that with, not having people talking to you and not a lot of outside distractions or interruptions coming in, that's what we need. That's what we need for labor to work. And so you're clearly so deep in your limbic system and your brain, your body is doing the labor thing that you can't even make words. And I want women to
Yes.
know. And sometimes that can be a little scary for some women, because it's an altered state. Like your brain is
Yeah.
not functioning the way it does like right now, like us talking, and to
Hmm.
the point where words don't really work. And it can be frightening to be. That's, I think, part of the reason that transition can be a little bit spooky is because you realize, whoa, like I am far from reality. Yeah, your words might not work that deep in labor. Okay,
Yeah.
I love this part.
No.
I love this story.
Yeah, no, I could not talk to anyone. Like everyone's asking me questions like, what do you need me to do? What do you want? And I'm like, I couldn't focus on anything but the contractions. And when I finally got words out, I was like, I need in the tub. Get me in the tub. And so they helped me in, and immediately I was just leaning over the edge and I just relaxed. And the water took so much pressure and weight off of my pelvic. And it felt so much better because, yeah, he was already sitting far down. That was the most uncomfortable part, was just his weight on my pelvic. And I'm like, I need to get his weight off of my pelvic. And once I hit that water, it was smooth sailing from there. And my midwife, she took a couple pictures, took a short little video, and I was really worried that I was going to be that type where I was like screaming in labor. And thank God that was not me, because that always frightened me to hear other moms screaming in labor. And I'm like, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. But no, for me, I just had like a couple little grunts. And the nice part was the water completely took away that ring of fire for me. Like I knew when it was happening, but I didn't feel it because the water had helped moisten my skin and helped it to stretch easier. And like, I guess my midwife said like 5 pushes, he was out. And no one had got there on time to be there for his birth because he came so quickly. And like, I was just leaning there over the tub, just relaxing. And she was talking to my fiance and she's like, do you want to catch the baby? Like, do you want to pull him up? And he was just so focused on me. And I was focused on just relaxing and just being myself that she was like, okay, so she scooped him up and gave him to me. And I was like, oh, hi. And my first reaction was to just suck the water out of his nose because it was something that I had seen on a video. And I'm like, this is just the reaction that I feel like I need to do. And immediately she was like, good job, mama. And
I
we
love
just
that
hung
she
out.
gave you and your fiance the option, though. She didn't just reach in and grab the baby. I really love when midwives, this birth is your birth. Like I love when they realize that they don't need to insert themselves all the time when it's not
Yeah.
necessary. And I just love that she gave you that choice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and originally I had wanted to, but I was just so in the moment that, like,
Oh
again,
yeah.
I didn't really hear her.
Some women need that moment to gather themselves.
Yeah,
Like seriously, like we just talked about, you're coming back to reality. Like your neocortex is maybe it's not firing yet.
yeah, no.
You're still very deep in labor land. And so
Yeah.
lots of women have that reaction where they just need a minute, after the baby is born.
Yeah, that was definitely me. But as soon as she scooped him up and handed him over to me, I was like, oh, okay, we're back in reality. Took him and we just hung out in the tub for a little bit. It looked like a massacre had just happened. But we hung out in the water. He didn't do any crying. He just kind of sat there on my chest. We waited for the placenta to come out, so I didn't have that horrible, painful fungal massage.
Yeah, fundal massage, yeah. Not a massage. It's
Yeah,
fundal
no, fundal,
pressing.
that's right.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I didn't have to deal with that. That was nice. And she just gently pulled it out after a few minutes. I got to hold it and lift it up, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Because, yeah, with the other one, I didn't they didn't even let me touch it or anything. I got to look at it, but they didn't let me interact with it like I did this time, which was really
Yeah.
cool. And this time I
And
got to take it
also,
home.
cool. I love that. I love when women take their placentas. Do something. I don't know,
Yes.
bury it, eat it. I don't care. Just do something with it. But you said that it looked like a massacre had happened, and I just want to speak to that because people are afraid of blood, and I get it. It's not something we see every day, but the reality is that it's all about how a woman is feeling, and clearly you were feeling. I mean, obviously you're
Yeah.
coming back to reality from this crazy experience, so you're not exactly like fully present again the way you and I are talking right now, but it's about how you're feeling, and blood loss is different for every woman. And it's really hard to know, especially in a water birth situation, like how much blood has actually been lost. And it's about how a woman is feeling. If she's not feeling okay and needs some help, okay, then we have that help. But I just hate when people are so afraid of blood, or everybody thinks that they hemorrhaged, and the reality is that people think they hemorrhaged but they actually didn't. Like, there's just some
Yeah.
blood loss that happens after birth, and to expect that, just be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I felt great afterwards. Other than the shakes, I was
Yeah.
just super cold. I didn't want to get out of the water because I was so cold, but
Mhm.
they got me to the bed, got me some nice warm towels, got me all cozied up in the bed, and they checked on me, did whatever they needed to do. I got that golden hour finally. So I got to sit there and lay in bed and nurse him and video called with my aunt who wasn't able to make it, but my cousin showed up with some fruits and veggies for me. My mom went and got me some food, and we all just hung out and chatted, and it was definitely the experience that, like, it was just absolute heaven to be in that situation. And I was like, I want to do this all over again. Like, this was such a great experience. Like, I tell people that, like, the contractions hurt worse than the actual birth. Like, for me personally, I didn't have any pain going through that birth. Like, it was very intense, yes, but I did not have any pain, which was amazing because, of course, nobody wants to go through and have a painful birth.
Mhm.
So I really do think that the water helped a lot with that. And yeah, it was a great experience, and it's something that I would totally do over again.
Oh, beautiful story. I love it. If you had a woman sitting in front of you who um, had a poor birth experience the first time, and she really still was hoping for a positive, natural, physiological, intervention free birth the next time, what would you tell her?
It's absolutely possible because I did it. My entire birth plan was tossed out the window the first time around, and the second time I got everything that I wanted. I mean, even if you're coming back from a C-section, you can still have that natural medication-free birth. You can still have it. Don't let someone say that you can't. Listen to your body. Don't listen to anyone else. You know you better than anyone else does, and be your own advocate. And if you don't have that power, make sure that you have someone who can be that advocate for you to make sure that your wishes are respected, because mine kind of were, kind of weren't. for the most part, I was pressured. So make sure that you have an advocate for your wishes if you do not have that capability yourself.
In the form of like a doula or maybe a really well birth educated friend.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Something of that nature. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because I think we think we're going to be able to advocate for ourselves deep in that in labor, but like we talked about, our brains can't deep in labor land.
Yes.
And we think our husbands, our fiance, like partner is going to be able to do that. And yeah, I think that's great if they're really well prepared and know what your wishes are and are ready to do that. But it's a big transition for them too. And learning all about birth might not be exactly what they're ready to do in this moment. And so hiring that support in the form of a doula can be very wise decision. I think so many of us
Yes.
realize that after our first birth. We go, oh man.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely
Yeah,
something that I wish I had done.
same. Well, wonderful. Thank you, Alex. I really am so honored to hear your stories. And I know that this is going to reach the women it needs to reach. And yeah, I hope every woman listening knows that their next birth can be different.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
Thank you for listening to Your Redemptive Birth. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave a review on your listening platform to help this podcast reach the women it needs to reach. If you have a redemptive birth story you would like to share, please email me at sarah@yourredemptivebirth.com. I would love to hear from you. Let's spread the redemptive birth word together.